share with you some of the slides. So my main objective of putting on this workshop is to revive and to restore the Moxibustion techniques to its honored position, because I don't see enough people using Moxibustion with their acupuncture treatments. So by a show of hands, can you just tell me or show me who uses acupuncture with their Moxibustion, or Moxibustion with their acupuncture? Okay, great. Well, I hope to get you a little bit excited about some of the ancient techniques. Okay, thank you. All right. So if I were to define a Moxibustion, it would be burning the dried, sifted ayo, or the Artemisia argi, on or above acupuncture points. And Artemisia is a weed. It grows all over the world. But the most common variety is the Artemisia argi, because it has a very aromatic quality about it. And the medicinal property is that it warms the channels, it dispels cold, it relieves pain. And once upon a time, actually, you could study Moxibustion and become a Moxibustion master. So in order to provide treatments, the list goes on. In every major system of medicine, it treats the respiratory disorders, pain management, gynecological disorders, and we clearly don't have enough time to go into all of the protocols. But I thought it would be interesting for you to see how we, in California, we have a Moxa club, and so we're now growing it, harvesting it, and processing it. So this is the Artemisia argi, and this is the California version. It's the Artemisia duplicis. Again, this is the Chinese version. And so typically, if you were to read the classics, we harvest moxa either on the third lunar day of the third lunar month. And so this is the third lunar day of the third lunar month. And you can see on the back of the leaf, it's very white and furry. It's very easy to identify. However, I've not found it here in Greece, and if you know where I can get some, or where I can climb up into the mountain and find it, please let me know. So this is, we're harvesting this on the third lunar day of the third lunar month. And then the second time we're harvesting, because the essential oil is at its highest peak, is on the fifth day of the fifth lunar month. Once the Artemisia starts to seed and flower, it's too late to harvest. So at that point, we cut it, we hang it, we dry it. And if you read in the classics, there's some superstition about it. They would hang it over doorways of the front of the house to keep out evil spirits, or to keep out the lizards and the snakes and the unwanted creatures from entering into your house. And this is when it's dried. And there's three different varieties. The top one is from California. And the two bottom are typically the Chinese versions, the Artemisia vulgaris and the Artemisia argi. So then what we do is we take it, if you want to get the flavor of like connecting with our ancestors, we would take it and start to sift it, put it into a mortar and pestle. And we would grind it and grind it. Grind it until the dust comes out. And what you're left with is sort of the vines or the veins of the leaf, the fibers, because that's what we want to get, is the fibers. And after it's dried and sifted, we refine it again, letting go of some more powder. And this is what we're left with. We call it mugwort or moxa floss. Some people call it moxa punk. But then, when we get to this point, we then age it, because there's quality to the Moxibustion. And the longer that it ages, the more pure and the higher quality, the less smoke, the more aromatic. And this is an example of some very high quality. It's the Moxa Gold, which means it's been aged for at least 3 years or more. And when you have the very refined Moxa, you can actually roll it into rice-sized cones and apply it into a direct Moxibustion, which is applied directly on the skin using a burn ointment. And this I ordered, so this is another grade A. And the reason why I want to talk about how to judge the quality of Moxibustion is because I hear a lot of times people say, oh, I don't burn it in my clinic because it smells. It smells quite bad, actually. And my neighbors think we're smoking pot or something. Have you ever heard that? Well, I would like to turn it around and say, you know, when people come knocking at the door and they say, oh, what is it that you're burning? Say Moxibustion, and they often say, oh, can I come in and try some? So it's actually a good marketing tool. So typically, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Moxa stick. Now, when I was going to school, I used to think that this was some very ancient technique. However, I learned that it's relatively a new invention. It was developed during the high peak of the Ming Dynasty. But if you go back into the classics before the Ming Dynasty, you'll read a lot about the ancient techniques of using direct and indirect Moxibustion, whether it's on garlic, ginger, or the herb futsa. But I never used it in clinic when I was in school, did you? We would always use the little Moxa pole. So there's two types of poles, and the green and the white one actually have the Artemisia archi in it, but it's a very low quality. And I'll talk about quality. If you have a low quality, you have about 50% leaf and about 50% sort of particles of twigs and maybe even a little bit of rocks and dirt, and which is why it smells so toxic when you're burning it, combined with the element of the paper that's wrapped around it with the ink. And so when I do use the green pole, I like to remove the paper. The other stick is probably more popular in the modern clinic because it's a smokeless version. However, it's not mugwort at all. It's a piece of charcoal that has been infused with Moxa, sort of like how you would dip a tea bag in. It's sort of been dipped into a Moxa solution. So there's some controversy whether, well, is it the Moxa that has the healing benefit, or is it the application of heat? So I'll let you be the judge of that. Anyway, so just for fun during the weekend, we decided to rip apart, of course I already knew this, but for my few of my students that are here, we opened up a Moxa stick to see what was the quality. Now let me tell you, I went on eBay because I heard that they had these gold Moxa sticks available from China. And when they arrived, I ripped it open and it wasn't gold. So I did a little comparison here. You can see what the gold Moxa looks like, the very high quality, and what I was told was gold really actually looks like dirt. You see? So, and then we did an experiment. We wanted to burn the different qualities of Moxa. So if you look to the far left, that's the grade A, that's the Japanese gold. And this is where it's so fine, so refined, you can actually roll it into little rice-sized cones. And then the second one is still a grade A, but it's from China. The third one is grade B. The fourth one is of a Japanese variety. It's sort of considered to be an all-purpose. It's good for rolling cones or putting it into a Moxa pole. And then on the right, the far right, is actually what came out of that green Moxa stick, which was sold to me with the understanding that it was gold. So we decided to burn it, okay? And so you can see that when you burn the high quality Moxa, it will present with a black ash, which is pure carbon. And the scientists say that when you're burning with pure carbon, you get more infrared heat. It's more therapeutic. And then to the far right, actually the second, third, fourth, and fifth, you'll see that the ash is a little bit gray, so it's not as pure. But the fire is more hot on the poor quality. It's actually, we call it more fierce. It's more like a lion. So it has the ability to burn and to be somewhat uncomfortable. So we're striving for balance. And then I took an overhead view, and you'll see that, again, the fine quality gold on the far left has the black ash. And even the grade A, B, the multi-purpose, and then the poor quality also has a very gray ash to it. So we actually strive to get that pure black ash, which is a pure carbon, and that's where you get that therapeutic heat. So we also had the great pleasure of putting together our own traveling Moxibox this weekend. And so we always like to have some incense sticks because that's the best way to light the Moxibustion or the mugwort floss. We always want to make sure that we don't burn the patient. So we have to have some fire safety in place, whether it's an ashtray or a way to remove the moxa from the body, so I have some hemostats in there. And I'm getting a little crazy now. I love doing direct moxibustion with the bamboo pole. Has anyone used the bamboo pole? Have you heard of the bamboo pole? Well, it's a Japanese technique, although the direct moxibustion goes back to the Chinese classics. But the Japanese fell in love with the direct moxibustion, and they really have refined it a great deal. And so this weekend we decided to play with the direct moxibustion and the indirect moxibustion. What you're probably familiar with is with the pole. We call it handheld or suspended. Okay, and when you hand hold it, typically there's three movements. There's circling, there's sparrow pecking, and then there's wandering moxibustion. But we decided to play with some direct and indirect. In fact, the very first moxibustion needle, they called it a thunderfire needle. So we even rolled our own thunderfire needles, and they were made in great secrecy. And they were prayed over and chanted over, and then they were used in treatment. But the original way to apply moxibustion using a pole was actually called pressing, and I have a slide, but we would take the moxa pole and actually touch the skin using a medicated cloth or cookie. So we made our own medicated cloths this weekend. We made our own medicated cookies using a variety of either kitchen spices or Chinese powdered herbs. Again, the recipes are so numerous. Do you want to relieve pain? Do you want to warm the wound? So your creativity is really limited. The sky is the limit with what kind of herbs that you choose to put into your medicinal cakes. So we mixed a little flour and water and some herbs, and we took a little stencil, we cut out some cookies, and then we poked some holes into it to allow the moxa chi to actually penetrate through the cookie. And we can also use some ginger, garlic, futsa. And so we even experimented with different herbs and different cookies, and the students reported back what they felt. Some felt more of a wide spreading sensation of heat. Some felt like a more direct, penetrating, more local, deep heat. So again, your intention of what you want to do will be determined by what herbs and medicinal cakes and cookies you use and for what purpose. So we like to place it on a little piece of gauze because once the heat penetrates to the point where the patient feels the heat, we can easily lift it. Because sometimes if you just lift the cookie, it can potentially crumble and burn the patient. And we have a mantra: don't ever burn the patient, okay? It's not good for business. And this was a very special cookie we made using Sichuan chili pepper. This one was reported to be very hot, very penetrating. And then we have the futsa, and if you choose to use futsa, it's very famous in the classics to be used on kidney 1 to anchor the yang. What you want to do is soak it overnight until it's soft and pliable, and then apply the moxa the next day. So you don't want to use it in its hard version, although it's becoming more difficult to find these days because it has been known to have some toxic properties when used inappropriately. So of course, they have to take it off the market. But you can also use a wide variety of other things as your insulating factor between your skin and your moxicum. So we experimented with some orange peel. You can use eggs, eggshells. And then we also made our own purple cloud ointment, which is the topical. Okay, and we practiced with some direct moxibustion, rolling them into little rice-sized cones. The burn ointment serves as a little bit of an adhesive. We let it burn down directly. And we've also made some medicated cloths using some Chinese herbs. We hang them to dry to gather all that yang energy, the decocted in Chinese herbs and vinegar. And then we use it as a medicated cloth for the pressing. So if you see this slide, this is actually the original thunderfire needle technique where we actually press through medicated cloth to get that heat to penetrate deeply into the point or deeply into the channel. So a lot of these techniques, if you're interested, are in the Great Compendium of Acupuncture and Moxibustion. This was published in around 1600s, but it's a compilation of all of the ancient techniques from all the ancient physicians from years prior. So I hope I've given you a little bit of taste test about the wonderful world of Moxibustion. So thank you for listening.